Webinar is now streaming live on Facebook, and obviously, as you can,
my most successful agents care about my opinion, and they want me to find everything so they know.
Well, I'm concerned that the pre-listing inspections is one more dumbing down.
Chris and Charlie and I thought we would come in and just chat with you guys a little bit. I had been surfing around the net and posted something on our group page that referenced a real estate agent's post in September about relationships and home inspectors and real estate agents, et cetera. I mean, this is like a topic that's been beat like 1,000 times. However, you know, Charlie wrote a little piece on it. And if you haven't, it's a good read. Go over. He's got a nice rebuttal to this topic. And if you want to catch the topic, it's in our on our group page. So, guys, if you're watching on a Sunday afternoon and you don't have anything else to do better than what we're doing, which is talking about home inspection stuff, make some comments and chat. Chris just got a new equipment. He's got a new mic, as you can see, sorta, and he's got a new camera, which you can absolutely see his lovely face now. And Charlie has got his old equipment and his old mic and his same old face. I won't say old.
Well, man, you don't want to try to run both of them at the same time. Right. My brain is mush now. I finally got it turned off. So,
you know, until we get some comments in here, we can just kind of talk about what we were not doing. And I don't know if this thing is live. Let's see. I'm going to put.
Yeah, it's live. It's playing away over there.
All right, so
I've got three screens there.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't have any groundbreaking opinions about it, other than the fact that I don't, I haven't gone to my forum and wrote a rebuttal to it. I think the perspective thing is difficult to put your fingers around and put your hands around. It means so many different things to so many different people. And I particularly like Charlie, the way he ended his article the other day that he wrote on his website, on his blog, with he thinks that we all could do better. I mean, we should be striving to do the best we can for our client, not focusing on whether or not, the home inspector said something they didn't really like.
I always work for my client, always. And I've had a few agents beat me up before about talking about a certain topic or, expressing my opinion about a certain topic. And then pretty much I just told them I won't change anything, hire the next guy. I know that's kind of hard in certain areas because certain areas are smaller areas, but in Houston, I have 38,000 agents and be like, you don't like me, don't hire me. But the next thing is my opinion on the topic is that whenever it comes to that is that my most successful agents care about my opinion and they want me to find everything so they know that they're not going to get a complaint phone call whenever they move in. Because if they get a complaint phone call, they're going to turn around and call me. And I feel like that's the best relationship I have. I have agents that refer me out 4 to 3 times a month or just back to back, knowing that my report will never change for them. It's always going to be the same. So,
one of the things that sort of proves that there is this perspective problem is that and I'm sure that you guys have experienced it too, where you have an agent, they call you once a year, but it's always involved with somebody in the family that they're selling a house to, as opposed to the regular people they sell houses for all year long. They perceive you as somebody that they would want to do a house for themselves, but somehow it's might be riskier to use you on a normal inspection. So, you know,
I don't even think about it. You know, just keep going out there marketing, and those whole little opinions between agent and home inspector, it'll go out the door eventually. Just always work for your client. It'll keep you out of trouble, and people will hire you because they trust you.
That's right. And you need to figure out a way to have the public find out about you before you even have an agent. More and more, I'm getting
Google.
Clients that come to me. Hey, you know a good agent? And I said, and why isn't that more common? I mean, we're in the best position to know who the good agents are, really.
So if we were to try to use a couple of examples of how that might be managed or changed or in flux or wiggles or whatever you want to call it, is this move now to do pre-listing inspections. How is that going to change the dynamics?
Bad idea.
There's this push to do pre-listing inspections where I don't see it moving in my area because it is frowned upon by my local real estate community. The agents don't necessarily want to have a disclosed bit of data. They want to be dumb to the thing until the inspector gets there.
Ostrich approach.
Yeah.
Man, I grew up in this business, and my dad's been talking about pre-listing inspections since I was 8. I'm 31 now, so I have to say it's not going to happen. Give it up. Go to the next topic when it comes to these pre-listing inspections.
Well, I'm concerned that the pre-listing inspections is one more dumbing down step for our industry, and I hesitate to use the word profession, because I see lots of pre-listing inspections, and they're all like these marginal bullet point type inspections. They're not real inspections.
You're saying they're very broad. They're not specific enough, or
they're not thorough. They often don't meet the standards of practice in terms of the requirements of us as a profession, or our license, if that's the case. Maybe they kind of end up, they don't have to be, because it's not a real inspection.
It's still real. In our state, if it's up for sale, they have to follow the rules and regulations. So if they
this is
on the market,
but this is before it's up for sale.
As soon as you know that it's part of a sale or transaction, you're required to use your standard report form.
But see, I do pre-listing inspections where they're not going to put it on the market for a year. It's not on the market. It's not listed. And our standards of practice actually allow us to do an inspection of any kind as long as it isn't under contract. So,
I'll have to look up the rule again, but I'm pretty sure as soon as you hear that it's going to be sold, if they bring that topic up at all, you're required to use your standard report form. But I could be wrong. There's a chance. But
well, I think different states are different. It didn't used to be that way in Washington State. In Washington State, it used to be that if basically if you did any kind of an inspection and it was more than X, Y, and Z, you had to be a real inspection, especially in terms of pest license, but not in terms of home inspection.
But I agree with you, Gary, completely when it comes down to pre-listing inspections. As soon as I went to the ASHI conference, I really haven't heard it brought up for at least 4 years of being in the industry. And I started asking all my top agents when I was on my inspections, be like, hey, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on this? And I'd say all 5 of my top agents throughout that past week, they all agreed with your point of view completely. They don't want 2 reports. When you get into it, if you have 2 home inspections on the same house, you're still going to get 2 different opinions.
I think if you had 5 inspections on the house, you would have 5 opinions. Yeah.
I tell my clients, I said, get as many inspections as you can, put them all together, and you'll have one good one.
So 5 different opinions. So that's the thing they need is one person saying it's okay and one person's not, and let alone just having one person say it's bad, and then they can go from there.
So if you were making a list of the loopholes of a pre-listing inspection, it would be disclosure and how a particular agent in a particular area might look at the potential for how that wouldn't be accepted. So we have a lot of new members. We're probably approving at least 15 to 20 new members, new home inspectors, not new, just new members. We're putting about 70 new members in our group each week. Man. And about 20% of that count is are brand new, inspectors. So they want to know what are we going to, what shiny new object should we bite on?
No, I agree.
Well, we're kind of like crows. They'll pick up anything shiny.
Yeah, don't do pre-listing inspections. You'll waste your time.
Well, especially as a newbie.
My opinion.
The last thing you want to do as a newbie is do a pre-listing inspection and get totally trashed and beat up by a real inspection later on.
Yeah, I just sold a house and someone just did an inspection on mine, and I was like, geez, and I had to call them and tell them that, like, hey man, you're using the wrong report form. I just keep him out of trouble. He's like, oh man, really? But you're right.
So another pitfall is potentially not using the right report form or not reporting it in by some standard for the state or mm-hmm. whatever. So one of the first or one of the better pieces of advice might be to check with your licensing program if you have one in your state, and check with the brokerage community to make sure that is an accepted path for a lot of the agents.
Are you Texas, Chris?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The highest regulated state.
Well, exactly. When you say form, that speaks Texas, because I don't know other states that have that kind of a form specific.
That specificity, right?
Yeah, we have to write. We have check boxes, and it has to be in a certain layout and written a specific way. And then if they have a problem, they could go to the state and contest my license. They can. There's a lot of.
But you're not limited to that checklist or whatever, are you? You can go beyond it, can't you?
Yeah. So the way the report form works is it's standard. So I have to write up my foundation stuff in the foundation section. I have to write my grading in the grading section. And so about that report form, what's interesting about it is that I have a bare minimum standards I have to follow. So I only have to check like every other outlet, every other window or something like that. But there's no maximum. So I could literally go to the point of, as long as I'm not removing or destroying it, I can write up certain codes and write down spacing and all this other nuance with it. So there's no maximum, there's a minimum.
Yeah. And that's kind of, most standards of practice are that way. It's just not spelled out in a form. And I know when I'm checking student reports, I have to make sure that everything that's required by the standards of practice is in that report. And in a way, Texas makes it a lot easier for a reviewer.
I agree with you. I wouldn't even know where to start. Be like, do I put foundation at the end or at the beginning?
But see, a lot of the CAN software does that anyway.
Okay.
So what other states have that type of strict reporting method where it's spelled out in the, I don't know of any. What do you guys know of any other states that are so specific with the way you deliver or the way you report the conditions of the property?
I actually never broke out of the Texas world. I don't know if you know about Texans, but we like to think that Texas is the only area that you need to be.
And of course, that flies.
Bigger, you'd be that.
that flies in the face of the Texan and the Alaskan that were arguing, and they said, if you're not careful, we'll cut Texas in half and make it the third largest state or something like that.
Yeah,
can't remember exactly how that joke went.
You got Kevin. He said that North Carolina is pretty strict too, as well.
So what is it about North Carolina, Kevin? If you're listening, I'm thinking that it's the same as every other state, or every state. Is just that Texas tends to make a bigger deal of it, because you've got a minimum set of standards you've got to report by, and when you don't report by those standards, you get in trouble. And I guess you can go over that standard, so you can go above it. So why not? I mean, it's still a minimum set of rules. Like you got to at least open a few windows.
Yeah.
You just wrote that just the way, pretty much it looks like the same way Texas is, specific way the report the problems are reported, and it must be written. So yeah, probably the same state. You know, we're required to call out GFCIs. We have to call out AFCIs if they're not in the panel box. Actually, no, they changed that rule just recently. I take that back. You're not required to do that.
Yeah, but you know, one thing about Texas is that they actually have some semi-meaningful training requirements.
You know, and I still don't even agree with all of them either, because one time I was training a guy and he passed the professional home inspector test pretty young. He was only like 22. And I was like, all right, I'll give him a shot. I'll start training him. I asked him where the coils were for the AC unit, and he couldn't point it out. He's like, what are those? But he passed the test. So
Yeah,
I thought
well, that's a problem. And I think in a nutshell, the biggest issue we have is unevenness of training in our industry profession. You know?
Yeah, across the board.
Across the board, you'll see guys experienced inspectors that have no clue about electrical issues, and you know, spouting stuff that they learned in some inspector school 20 years ago that was wrong then and still wrong. And repetition doesn't make things right.
You know, I completely agree with you. And then, like, I was talking to my dad about that, because he sat on the board that regulated the rules with track, and it's a slippery slope. Whenever you regulate it too much, you don't have enough home inspectors, and then we're out here getting rich because they need to wait 2 weeks to get us. And then if you regulate it too little, then you have a bad product out there. So I mean, like, it's that argument could be going on forever. How do you solve something like that?
It's a huge catch-22. I don't know, other than just time. You know, it's better than when I came in 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, 14 years ago. It's considerably better, but there's no question in my mind, but no matter which inspection school you go to, students coming out are better trained than guys that came into this profession 20 years ago, because they had no training at all.
I agree with you too, because my dad was telling me some of the stories of how he was learning to be a home inspector, and he was just riding along with the guy. He had a clipboard, and he'd be like, go look at the roof, go look at the AC, go, and they would all come back to him, and they would haul back in this car, and he was knocking out like 8 a day. You know? And they were just sending out all these newbies, looking at all this stuff in the house, and then coming back, and he would just write a report, rip it, and then give it to them.
But as the consumer expectations rise, so do the requirements and qualifications for home inspectors. Home inspectors have to get better. They're forced into it just because the consumer expects more.
But yet we still have almost 50% of the U.S. is unlicensed. And
licensing isn't necessarily a direct solution. It can help, but I see it. I look at my own Washington State law. It can hamstring an inspector if you make it such that you can't adjust and change the law when it becomes necessary. Like, I know Chris has the issue of, I think, being required to take the receptacles out on aluminum wires.
Yeah, I'm not technically allowed to do it. Yeah, I'm not allowed to remove anything or remove cover plates or anything like that. But
I saw somewhere that somebody said that if you knew you had aluminum wire, you were required to take a receptacle out. Is that not true?
I'm going to have to look up that rule. I'm going to write, I need
I
to,
lost you.
yeah, I'm going to need a notepad because I don't know if that rule's true or not. But I do that, to be honest, because if I see aluminum wiring, I pull out my thermal camera and I start
Mhm.
hitting all of the
Mhm.
outlets just to see. And if I got a hot spot, that's my outlet that I like to target, because normally they wired it with the wrong outlet, or they're splicing copper and aluminum together inside of it.
I guess my thinking about aluminum wiring is it's the worst of all worlds, and then you're going to muck with it and pull the receptacle out and have one break off on you, and it's just like, whoa, I don't want to go there. I'll take the cover off and look in around or whatever.
Yeah.
But
That's what I do. Yeah, I'll take the cover off. I'm not going to actually pull the outlet out unless situation dictates, like if I see in there, I'm like, hey, I got that weird cap in there that's slightly melted. Let's look at it, something like that. But yeah,
sometimes if I want a good picture for teaching or something, I might go above and beyond, but that's not a home inspection.
no, yeah.
So the least polled group, I think, are clients. When, we're going back to our thread topic, which was being in bed with real estate agents. The particular thread that I'm talking about is on our page. So you guys that are listening or hanging out here can go over and check it out. It's on our group page. But the premise of that was that there are two over there that we make mention. One of them was a poll that was taken asking agents, some specifics about the inspector. And I didn't see, and someone made a comment in there. I don't know if it's Charlie or who it was, but it's a very good comment that we seem to be leaving the client's opinion out when we are in conversation about what we should and shouldn't do, how we do our thing. Does the client not have any input?
See, I really never even thought about it like that. So you're saying, what are their feelings on, should the inspector tell them it's a good house or not? Is that what you're referencing to?
I think that if we continue to play down the role of the client's opinion in how we conduct our business, and we keep paramount whether or not we're participating in some way that would be directing us away from focusing on our relationship with our client, the person who actually pays us. We're doing ourselves a disservice. We're worrying about things. Are we really in bed with an agent? Well, who cares about that? I would much rather focus on what I'm doing right or wrong with my client, and how that affects you and how it affects the agent.
Yeah. Well, I think the article was more geared towards how can home inspectors and agents get their heads together so that the deal happens better.
So that we close the deal.
Yeah. And to me, I can't afford to care about the deal. I just can't. I mean, I'm working for the client, and the client is expecting me to be working for them. And I guess I don't want them to connect me with the agent directly.
I completely agree with you, Charlie. When it comes to that, the main reason why is my opinion doesn't care if the house sells or not. My opinion is are they going to buy a house to their tolerances? I mean, like, I've done inspections for first-time home buyers that know absolutely everything about houses, and they're like, yeah, I can fix that. And then I've done inspections for first-time home buyers, and they hear galvanized water lines, and they're like, I'm out. So you're right. I completely agree with you that it doesn't matter if the deal goes through or not. And I think actually with today, like you were brought up before, it does matter. It's a matter of time. The time's growing more, and the relationship between the agent and the home inspector is almost out the door. It's going to be relied completely on Google, Yelp reviews, your website. And so whenever I'd say, since I focus so much on my online marketing, that it's changed completely. And I'm getting a better relationship and a better reaction out of my agents and clients. I'm more and more every day. Talk to the agent.
Well, it weeds out those agents really well. You don't end up working with the ones that don't care about their clients.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then so you get to work with your good agents that want them to buy a good house, and then those bad agents that are doing, and those bad agents are actually only doing onesies and twosies. That's what I like to call them. They're not steady career agents. They're not there. And the career agents, they want their clients to be in a good house. So they don't care what you say. They're like, it's messed up. How do we fix it? That's the only thing they care about.
Yeah.
So until the agents are removed from the ability to refer the home inspector, the client will always suffer.
Well, I sort of agree with that, but also I think that really good agents should be able to connect with really good inspectors. And I'm not one of these guys that thinks it should not be allowed. I just think that if we educate the consumer, educate home inspectors, that this kind of thing will grow with time without regulation.
No, I agree too. Yeah. I don't agree with the agent being completely removed. Yeah, they do want the deal to close, but they're being coached more and more every day about how don't lose the client, lose the house. That's like one of the biggest sayings out there. Because if the client's not comfortable with the house, you're never going to get repeat business or referrals. It's a referral-based business out there. So they understand that.
Yeah, and I've had multiple inspections with the same client, and it's amazing how often they come to the scene with a different agent.
They get an argument or something, right?
Yeah, it's like
yeah. And just so that we understand from some of our listeners who might be on a podcast with us, Chris is a multi-inspector firm. I am a one man show, and Charlie is also a single inspector. I don't think, Charlie, you have staff. I don't have any staff members either. So we're strictly winging it, and Chris is a little bit more organized and has more irons in the fire than we do with respect to the number of inspectors in his company.
He has to be younger and hungrier than we do.
Evidently, he's got some need for that punishment.
My kids are grown and gone.
There you go.
Yeah, it's actually my wife. My wife is all the organization.
It's her. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, we're gonna do this. Yeah. Yeah.
She also chose your roof color, right?
Yeah. Oh, the roof color. Yeah, that's all her. And those pillows are all her. Yeah. She's the organization. I grew it all by myself. I was up to a 3-man team, and honestly, after a 3-man team, you need help. And so that's when I grew up to a 5-man team, and that was specifically mainly because of her. Because now we're offering 401ks, and we're looking at trying to create longevity of our employees for working for us, and so they make good money too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's all her. I just like, hey, we're going here. How do we get there?
Yeah, you've had the fortunate thing of being your only career. For a lot of guys, it's their second career. For me, this is what I'm doing basically in retirement. I've had employees. I ain't going there again. So it's a different mindset, I think,
and we can still carry on the same. We can still get hired. The intent of that comment is to know that if you are in the market to become a home inspector, and you can do it both ways. You can be a single inspector, and you can also create a company that and have more folks work for you.
Yeah. That said, there's this kind of this movement I sense where I hear things like, if you're not a multi-inspector firm, you're just going to be totally out of work in the future. And
I've heard that.
I hope that's not true, because
Yeah, I think
that's bad for the consumer.
Most of that rumor that I've heard has been pushed by vendors.
Yes.
I disagree with that topic like wholeheartedly, because the reason why is how many superpower electricians out there, how many superpower plumbers are out there, but you know what? Dan the plumber still gets paid whenever it comes out there, because he's going to provide a good service. You just create your own community, and it's just from some of the coaching that I listen to. It's about self-awareness too as well. So do you think you have the guts, or not the guts, but do you think you can manage a company like that? And if you can't, you don't want to go out there and market every day, and you want to be a family man, I don't have kids. That's the reason why I can do this all the time. But if you want to be a family man, go work for a company. They'll do all the marketing. They're going to do all the hard stuff. They're going to handle the complaint phone calls. Let them do it. But
personal choice.
Yeah, personal choice, to each their own. And I don't think that they'll be run over at all. You just have to change your marketing strategy a little bit, but you'll always work.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole, like for me, as soon as I find out a company is the guy that owns the company isn't going to show up to actually do the work, I'm not interested. But that's me, and I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
So there are different philosophies and mindsets to service, and how that service is provided, and different strokes for different folks. And as long as there are different people growing up and growing older, we will still have a market for a single inspector as well as a multi-use.
Yeah. Some consumers are only interested in cost. They don't care about anything else. So if it's cheap, that's what they're going to go with. If it's, whereas others, if it's not expensive, they're not interested, because they equate expensive with quality.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there's an inspection company out there. Their prices are like astronomical. And he's been here like 24 years. And I'm like, man, how you do it? He's like, he's created value just through price, almost, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. That's where you end up with these inspectors that are overpaid at $250 and underpaid at $800. It's all over the place.
Yeah. Price point. Yeah. Price point's a whole different topic. We should save that one for another day. How should you price your home inspections?
Which is a great segue into thanking our listeners, if there are out there. Join us in the group often to catch these live videos, and some of what you hear today will also be on our podcast on SoundCloud. And thanks, Charlie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me again.
Yep, we'll talk soon. See you online.